Don't you think this will actually like solidify the image of you opposing your businessman as well?
Well, I think the word challenge, if you look up the dictionary, is about asking questions. So it is not confrontation, it is asking questions. So I think Dr. Tan Cheng Bock did make an issue of it. He said that he was disturbed, but I think he shouldn't be disturbed because it's part of what he wanted to. He wanted an open debate, and in an open debate, you need to ask questions, and that is the meaning of challenging that I have in mind, not confrontation.
So you don't think that it will actually like create dissent between the president?
No, not at all, not at all. As I said, on many occasions, my first approach is always to have a word with the Prime Minister, and then we will try to resolve it. I'm sure he will have the interests of Singaporeans at heart. I also have the interests of Singaporeans at heart. We have no personal agenda. So I'm sure he will find it refreshing to listen to what I've got to say. And he doesn't have to agree with me 100%. Just 50% is good enough for me. But of course, I will go for 75% and A1.
So you have made a lot of claims outside of the Constitution to enshrine the power of the President if elected. If elected, how do you plan to see through these plans that you have already promised to the voters?
Well, I think I would use the moral authority of the President to push for positive things, because the veto power is actually a negative power. It's to deny the government from doing certain things. So I think I want to use the moral power of the President to push for positive things for the people.
Will there be systems and structures to help you pull through this moral power?
Well, the President, the office of the President also is a prestigious office. He can use it to promote social causes. He could start off, if he likes, by contributing part of his salary to it and to kickstart a foundation or campaign and get other people to donate as well. So I see this as a positive thing within the structure, not changing the constitution at all.
Yeah, Dr. Tan has also mentioned that you feel saddened by this so-called personal attacks on his family members. And this is supposed to be a dignified campaign. So what do you think of this personal attacks?
Well, I don't know whether any member of any candidate engaged in personal attack. I certainly didn't attack his family. So I do not know who he was referring to. So that's it. I don't think we should attack members of the family.
Actually, one of your speakers at your rally made I think Dr. Paul Tambay made some reference to deferment, or was it Basil? One of the speakers.
Yeah.
It was an oblique reference.
Yeah, okay. There is no direct attack.
Okay, so just continue. You're going on a marathon 5-hour
Yeah.
Can you give us a rationale for this?
Well, I think it's a short campaign period, and there are lots of places to cover. And I think doing an MRT stop journey is probably allows us to cover more places, because in between travel time, there are jams along the way. And then I think it is good that we also know about the MRT problems. And yeah, it's a good way of reaching out to a lot of people, because we are traveling from the central to the north and then to the west. So it's a lot to cover.
Do you usually take the train or public transport?
Well, I try as much as possible to take the train, because it's quite convenient. I don't have to look for parking space, and it's convenient. I try as much as possible.
You have worked on the ground for a few days. What do you think is the response so far?
I think the response is good, and I'm becoming more. I think people are more aware of me, especially those in the heartlands, and we get positive feedback from people that they now know who I am, and they can recognize me. So I think it's all good.
So do you have a message to Singaporeans why they should vote for you?
Well, I will cover that. I have covered that many times, and I will repeat that in my broadcast to the nation tomorrow. And I think basically the 5 things. First is that I've got government experience. I worked a lot with government before. Ministry of Trade and Industry, not just economics. I sat on various committees. I sat on Committee on the Problems of the Asia with Mr. Hau Win Chong, the former Health Minister, as chairman. So I know problems of the old people, just other old people, including my mother, whom I took care. And I was sat on the Public Housing Committee chaired by Dr. Tony Tan as well. I was his secretary, so I deal with a lot of other departments too. So I have, and I also worked with the Prime Minister before. He was my Minister for Trade and Industry, and I did work with him. I also worked with him on the Economic Committee that he chaired in 1985. So we worked very well together, and I hope I am sure we will continue working well together if I get elected as a Prime Minister. That's my government experience. The other experience is diplomatic experience. I have represented Singapore in overseas meetings, overseas missions before. And the third is I know about economics and I know about global finance by working in banks, by working in government Ministry of Trade Industry. So I'm quite equipped to handle the economic crisis, financial crisis, to understand the problems that the government is faced with. So number 4 is I have a sense of independence, this sort of thing. And of the 4, I believe I'm the most independent of the ruling party.
How confident are you winning this seat?
In this?
President election?
Yeah, I'm quite confident. As I go along, I'm more and more confident. And the 5th point that you have not heard is my empathy for the people. I think that is a very important quality for the president, to empathize with the people, especially those who have been left behind, because that is a cause of divisiveness, and I want to close a gap to make people united by removing the sources of discord, the poor people, the disadvantaged. And I empathize with the poor because I came from the poor.
You say that you're confident. How many percent vote are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at a percentage to win. In the four-corner fight, it's difficult to predict. It's difficult to predict how much is the winning and how much you need to win. We don't know. You don't really know.
Is it a close fight for the top spot for you?
It's difficult to say. We have got a lot of sources of information, of feedback. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. Things can change last minute too.
But you're confident that you retain your election deposit?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Being able to empathize with the poor, right? Mr. Tan Jee Say yesterday pointed out in his rally that he is actually poorer than poor, so he might be able to understand it better than you. So what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I did not check his bank account. So, and how? Well, we were poor. I don't know whether he was poorer, but I was a family of 9 children, and we live on $5 a day. 30, 40 years ago, so that was how poor. And even at $5 a day, which definitely not enough, we had to stretch our hands, ask families and relatives to help out.
On the Straits Times Forum today, there was a reader who wrote in and said that not only the domestic aspect of the president is important, but as well the foreign relations aspect.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on your foreign relations experience?
Well, I haven't read the foreign page as well. My foreign experience, I did in my government job. I had a very proud picture of me shaking hands with Deng Xiaoping. I also shook hands with a lot of people, Dr. Mahathir and all that. All over the world, Japan, UK. I've gone IMF meetings, World Bank meeting. I've followed Minister Manto to the Commonwealth heads of government in Fiji. I was also on his delegation to visit Australia and Papua New Guinea. So I was part of delegation, very well versed, well experienced in diplomatic exchanges. That is for the government job. In my private sector banks, I work for international banks. I have gone out on international visits as well in Seattle, all over the world. Pakistan, I visited the Pakistani government. I visited Nigeria to Africa, where I met the Nigerian people, officials, for over some bank loans for an oil pipeline. So I've gone Australia, I've gone Papua New Guinea, I've gone all over the world. I've gone even to Trinidad and Tobago in South America. Obviously, I've been to Florida as well, en route to Washington for the World Bank meeting, and all over. So both in the government and private sector, I've had experience of representing Singapore and Singapore-based bank in overseas meetings.
Coming back to your walkabout today,
Yeah.
what is the message that you want to send out to Singaporeans when, with the fact that you're going on the MRT tour in the heartlands for 5 hours? Is it, what do you want to show Singaporeans about yourself?
Well, that's part of the reason. The other part of the reason is actually we are just going to the heartlands as well, to bring the message to the heartlands.
Significance, right?
Yeah, that's right. The significance is actually heartlands are important, but we have not neglected them. So the heartlanders are important. We will come here. This is deep into the heartlands. Ang Mo Kio, Yishun, they are deep into the heartlands at Jurong East, all over.
What would you do for the heartlanders?
Well, I think I did say in my speech, in a rally speech, that I will move with the people. I will become more involved in social causes, and that is where the president can make enormous contribution within the constitution. He doesn't have to change the constitution. I think he has got moral power to promote social causes actively.
And what particular 1 or 2 issues of heartlanders do you think should be addressed?
I think it's always the cost of living for heartlanders. It's always the cost of living for heartlanders, and I think I want to give them a sense of hope that however tough life is, all of us go through hard times, ups and downs, but there is hope for the children. And I, of course, coming from a very poor family, has achieved something in life. The son of a washerwoman, let's have some hope. Nothing is all lost. I mean, one thing good about Singapore is social mobility.
Have you had any thoughts on the other candidates' family speeches?
Well, I read the newspaper reports about, but I didn't read much about, except that reporters like you reminded me of some of the criticism. So I've answered them. But yeah.
You know, Dr. Joey Tan has said that for a lot of countries which are in economic crisis, it's not so much due to the economic problems as the political situation. And like yourself, you have very different views from the government. So, you know, do you think that political gridlock is going to be a problem?
Yeah, I think political leadership is important. We are not going to change the government in this election. The government has already been decided upon 3 months ago. What you are electing is a president to improve the workings of government. By, to making sure I work harder, work better for the people. And that is something that we welcome.